Hello and welcome to the 18th episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name is Ryan Blake, I'm the founder and CEO of Extreme Sports Performance. In this episode I'm speaking to Gary Peters. Gary is a lecturer of sport at Berkshire College of Agriculture. In this episode I ask him the questions I ask all my guests. Who he is, what he does, where has he come from and what has he done along the way, what are the key moments from his career so far, what are his top areas of interest, what are the most valuable things he's learnt, who are his top influences, what are his top resources for information, what are his top sports performance exercises and or drills, what are his top pieces of advice in life, exercise and or sport, and finally, where can people find him? We freestyle a little bit in between questions and towards the end like normal. Hope you enjoy listening to this one. Here we go. Hi, Gary. Thanks for joining us today on the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. Please, could you just tell the listeners, firstly, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Gary Peters. I'm a lecturer of sport at Berkshire College of Agriculture near Maidenhead. I've been there 3 years now.
Could you just give us a background on what you've done before this and your career to date?
Yeah, sure. So before this college, I worked at Bucknell University. I was there for about 16 years. I was managing a human performance lab, part-time teaching, research work and consultancy with a range of different athletes really. So a little overview I guess. Endurance runners, so from age group, GB cross-country runners, everything in between to kind of professional football really.
Fantastic. So obviously you've had quite a diverse career and worked in lots of different environments. What would you say if you had to choose the key moments from your career so far would be to date?
You know, you asked me this the other day, and I managed to get to two.
That's fine. Doesn't have to be three at all.
I'll do it on the hoof as well. One thing I was really proud with a few years ago was I was asked to get involved with the England Women's Touch Rugby squad and help those prepare for the 2015 World Cup, which was down in Australia. Unluckily, I didn't get to go to Australia, but the squad was actually complimented by the hierarchy as being the best prepared squad that would travel down. And I think they took about 8 or 9 squads altogether to Australia. So that was a good experience working with a team, a big squad really. So I was doing fitness testing and training camps, advising them on travel, acclimatisation, supplementation. So it's quite a very big. So that was a big learning curve. Also, I was by accident I got involved in a research-funded project with the NHS, working with type 1 diabetics and looking to reduce hypos. So that was a big learning curve. I was probably the least intelligent person in the room by far, but I learned an awful lot. So that was a great experience. They're the main two, right? To be honest with you.
Sure.
There is one that gives me a little bit of pride when I still see it advertised. Early in my career, probably about 18 years ago now, I was involved in a health promotion scheme. And it was just, have you heard of the Walking the Way to Health schemes?
Yes, yeah.
Possibly. I actually helped set one up in my area. And that's still running now, so I have a little smile when I see it advertised still, so that's still running. So, yeah, that was another project management experience. But yeah, that's it, that's my three, I guess.
Fantastic. Just to kind of come back to those points, with regards to the touch rugby players, what were the biggest challenges that they had that you found that you could have helped them with the most?
I mean, for me, going right back to the start of that, I had to get to know the sport to start with. It was a new thing for me. So I had to kind of learn about the sport, the energy demands. But I think it was just, how can I put this, kind of managing the different people.
Yeah.
I guess. Basically, these come from all over the country for training camps. They were kind of contacting me via email in between camps and the odd kind of FaceTime. So it's just, I guess what I learned most was the individualisation, in a nutshell, really. Because I think we do all the reading in the world about working with athletes, preparing them, but then on that one-to-one basis, we've got to get rid of those cookie cutters and actually really individualise it. So I think that was the biggest learning thing there, really.
I've had a lot of experience with working in different sports with different types of athletes at different levels, and even when you're managing high numbers or big groups, big squads, it is possible to individualise generic programs with very minor tweaks, just to make it slightly better for those people. And I find that it does have a range of benefits. Actually, obviously, it's more specific to their physiology, but it allows a bit more buy-in with the athletes too. If they know you're doing all you can to help them specifically, then they sometimes seem a little bit happier to help you out in a way by doing a little bit more. So simple changes can make quite big differences, I find.
They've got some very generalised program from the previous campaign.
Yeah.
They didn't really take into account the things they might be able to access in their own individual gyms, wherever they're training, the general, normal gyms, and there wasn't any kind of consideration to what they might have access to. So what I did was basically put a menu together for them. That's the best way to put it, really. So trying to get to the same end point, so maybe some Olympic lift variations, trying to, power development, that kind of stuff, but trying to just work with them. So, look, what have you got access to, and we'll work with it. So they were like emailing the pictures and paragraphs of what they had access to, and then we just made that work, really. So that was context.
I think giving athletes a menu of options is such a valuable tool, because it gives them more freedom to play around with different exercises. I think it also gives them the feeling that they have a bit more control of their own program, which again really helps with buy-in and communication and building that relationship with an athlete. So just coming back to the Diabetic Project you said you work with, what would you say the main takeaways were that you got from that?
Well, that was as bright as I thought I was. But no, I think that was just, it was a whole new world for me, that. Especially at the time, my sister was just being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So it's just learning about the condition, how quickly hypos can come on, and how to manage them really well. Met some really interesting people. I don't think there's any overwhelming take-home message there. It was just a great learning curve, really.
Sure.
All new knowledge. Yeah, it's great.
So, what would you say your top areas of interest / kind of research are at the moment in your kind of main disciplines?
A lot of my stuff at the moment is looking at kind of teaching and learning concepts, really, how people learn, how to differentiate approaches in the classroom, but I'm probably not doing as much sports science kind of stuff as I'd like to. But I think from a sports science perspective, a typical interest for me is just how to improve performance, really. That's quite a generalistic answer, but just how people can get better.
That's my constant kind of everyday relentless pursuit of better, really, performance enhancement and how people can get better. And one thing I've found
I do a lot more now is have a lot more conversations with people and try to read as much as I possibly can when I get the chance. But it's a question that I'm never going to fully answer, but it's one which I like to think that I could probably answer a little bit better each day. I seem to find out a little bit more information about things that I didn't know previously. Are there any kind of key systems or processes that you're using to help with that at the moment, try and answer that question?
Continually reflecting on practice is the key thing.
Yeah.
Even daily, weekly, what's gone well, why did it go well, how can I make things better, and that's the stage of the academic year that we're at. Today is the last day of the term, but this morning I've already been planning or an overview of classes for next February, March, April. So just looking at what I did this year for a particular unit. I tend to teach most of the physiology here. So looking at what went well this year and how we can improve things. So it's just like continual reflection, continually practicing new skills. The old adage, perfect practice makes perfect. So just continue trying new things, practicing them out, and just reflect and reflect and reflect.
I think reflective learning is something that I never used to really value very much, because I thought I used to know a lot more than I actually did. As the older I've got, I've realised I actually don't know very much at all. So I'm very comfortable with that now. Well, I was very uncomfortable with that previously. But reflective learning, I find, is something that's incredibly valuable, and it's something I think some people miss a lot, because it's very easy to think, I don't know the answer to this, I need to find out new information. When actually, if you just took a step back and looked at what you have done, what you're doing, prior to what you're going to go on to do, I think you can answer a lot of the questions that you feel that you didn't know that by doing that. Yeah. And it's just something that you need to get into the habit of. But yeah, like a reflective review process is so important, not just with sports science, but just I suppose just coaching generally and just general life relationships.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything we do, just sit back after as close to the event as possible. Just sit down, notepad and pen, think about what went well, what didn't, why didn't it go well, what are you going to do next time to make it better. I think that's kind of half the battle, really.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, what would you say the most valuable things you've learned are to date, based on what you've done in the past, what you're doing at the moment?
I think one thing I wish I'd have known 20 years ago, or felt 20 years ago, was maybe don't be scared of making mistakes. I think often, especially in sport, people are scared of making mistakes. Especially as you get further up the ladder. Don't be scared of making a mistake. That's our best learning.
Yeah.
So, and also, if we're making a mistake, don't be scared to admit to it. I think a sense of accountability there, and being honest, taking it on board. So that'd be kind of one of the first kind of lessons. The second one, I guess, would be, this might sound a little bit mixed up and a little bit senseless, but know what you don't know. So, be aware of your gaps in knowledge, whether it be theoretical or practical. Don't be afraid of asking for help, and just kind of be trying to continually learn. And I think if you look at the fitness industry, people will get a certain qualification and then they'll think they know absolutely everything.
Yeah.
When in fact they may not do. So then it gets a little bit thin ice in certain situations. So just be confident. Actually, do you know what? I'm not quite sure about that. That's not my area, but I'll find somebody that does. So that'll be kind of my kind of second take home. And I think probably one of the most important things as well, right? I only kind of got this maybe, when was it? Maybe 2010. Even though I've been employed for 10 years at the time, but when we're in sports science or fitness, health, we're working with human beings. No matter the level of the athlete, they're human beings at the end of the day. So, they're going to have things. They're going to be fathers, brothers, wives, daughters. They're going to have things going on. They're going to be having good days, bad days. So, that's one thing I never kind of got until I was quite fortunate in the lead up to the 2012 Olympics to have a few physiology sessions with a rower.
Yeah.
This guy, he got a gold medal in the previous Olympics. He was training for the London Olympics, big home Olympics. And I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting really, just some big shot, big star kind of thing. And he was probably one of the most humble, down-to-earth guys I've ever met. And that's how I thought, no, this guy's human. I'd done my homework before he came in, I'd done some internet searching, seen some YouTube videos of him in action. So this guy is awesome. I thought he was going to be kind of on a pedestal. But yeah, he was just down to earth, he was chatty, he was understanding what we were trying to achieve with him. That was a big learning thing.
It's very easy for you to forget that the person in front of you in a sports science, strength conditioning, physiology, whatever it is setting is, it's just like you really. They're there to be helped, and they're there for a reason, but they're human, and they have exactly the same challenges as you do.
To put it in a simple context, a little bit of a crude context, they need air in the lungs and we've got a hole in the arse, same as me and you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. Completely agree. But yeah, it is basic communication skills, relationship building, and just kind of interaction and listening. Like that's the old adage, 2 ears, 1 mouth is for a reason.
Exactly.
And that's something I missed when I was a lot younger. I just thought, whether it was because I was nervous or wasn't very comfortable with what I was doing and how I was doing it or how I should be doing it, I just talk a lot and listen a lot less.
I think when we're younger, we're keen to impress, so we sometimes we say what we think we're hearing rather than what we're actually listening to.
Yeah.
So listen to the athletes. If you're there for a period of time with them, get to know them. What's their family like? What area do they live in? What are their interests outside? They're only if you're working in professional sport, they're only professional athletes 3 hours a day. The other 21 hours, they're family people. They've got other hobbies and interests. So that's another kind of thing that I never kind of got really.
Sure, it's something that is always going to be like the question we were talking about before, like how to make people better, like how can you improve performance. It's one of those questions which could take forever to answer, and you might not even be able to answer it then. But it's like an ongoing challenge for me of how to improve those areas, right, from a personal development point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a never-ending process, isn't it?
And I think you have to be wary of people who think they've worked it out, because as you know, there's a lot of different characters in the sports world and big personalities, and some are brilliant at communicating and interacting with people very effectively, but others think they are, but they're really not. So it's a fine blend of art and science, really, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with you there.
So,
definitely.
Who would you say, Gary, like your biggest influences have been over your lifetime?
At the moment, there's a couple of guys in education that do some really good stuff in terms of educating the educator. There's a guy in the States has got a publication called Drop That Textbook, a guy called Matt Miller.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to get away from like a traditional, get everything on the whiteboards, everybody listens. A lot of his kind of approaches are quite interactive and just different ways of thinking. So I tend to, I sign up to his mailing list and I read a lot of the stuff that he's doing. In the UK, there's a guy that's got I think he's on Twitter, I think his handle's Teacher Toolkit. And he's called, I'm just trying to remember his name, I think it's Ross Morrison Gill. And he's quite an experienced educator. I think he's doing a doctorate at Cambridge University in education. But again, he's puts a lot of things out there to try and improve productivity and make things less of a burden for the teacher, really. From the sports science perspective, probably your normal standout people, your Professor Andrew Joneses, your Stuart Phillips at Master in Canada, who's a nutritionist. So they're kind of from a physiology history. And on Twitter, I really enjoy reading Training Ground Guru. The name of the guy escapes me. But he's always posting some good little insights and making reference to some of the latest research and approaches. So they're kind of what I'm looking at the moment, really. From a couple of names actually from the diabetes thing. A guy called Dr. Alistair Lung, who's a consultant endocrinologist at the Churchill Hospital in Oxford. He was one of the guys that made me feel extremely dumb. But he was just very down to earth, very bright guy, put things out there really understandably, really clearly and easy to understand. So yeah, he was a big influence during that study.
Awesome. So I will make sure that I put links in the show notes to all those references.
Sure.
Just so people can check them out in their own time. So, I mean, this alludes really nicely to kind of the next thing I was going to ask, and this you may have already answered this previously, but if you needed to find out more information about something or new information that you didn't really know, what would be your kind of resources to source that? Where would you go to find out new information?
There's a couple of resources I've used to help put materials together and to put little booklets together for some of my students this year. Stuff like Visible Body Learning, which is I think it's an American website that's got some good anatomy sections. The Khan Academy is another good one. Quite broad in its range of subjects, but if you just put in the kind of topic you're looking for, there's typically some nice materials there. And actually another one that I found useful, nice and simple, Times Educational Supplement, the test. Just log in with a Google account there. There's free materials that you can adapt or make use of. Just put a little kind of reference at the bottom of your work if you've used somebody else's work. And good old-fashioned Google Scholar, really. You can't beat Google Scholar.
Brilliant. I will. I'll definitely put those in the show notes as well, Gary.
Yeah.
Just so people can access them in their own time. Yeah, Google Scholar is something I wish I'd known about a lot sooner than I actually found out about it. But it's brilliant, especially if you're trying to get very specific information on something.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, Ryan, I don't think Google Scholar existed when I was an undergraduate. So.
Did it not? Yeah, I was just reflecting the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone about when I was doing my master's research project at Portsmouth, and I just thought, God, I would definitely go about that a different way now. It was literally having to go to the library, find the journals, photocopy the journals, go through the journals, highlight them all, and then put the references in, and it took forever. But there's it's a lot more of an efficient process these days. But
yeah, I remember going to the British Library during my undergraduate dissertation with this big list of journal articles I needed, and they said, "Yeah, come back in 3 hours, we'll get them for you." I thought, brilliant, they're going to copy the papers for me, and they just gave me a big pile of the actual journals, and then I had to kind of get the right page numbers, photocopy them. It's certainly a lot easier now.
I know. Technology can sometimes help you, but sometimes hinder you. But it definitely would have helped back in the day that I was stuck in that library, blimey. So just kind of moving on to the next thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, you could come at this from any angle you want, really, as a physiologist or more strength and conditioning. But what would you say the top sports performance exercises, drills, but I'm also going to throw another one in there, tests that you've used with athletes that you found most informative and beneficial to your practice?
Again, context is king, but I think in a good old-fashioned general foundation, I'm a big fan of just the old-fashioned compound lifts, deadlifts, bench presses, shoulder presses for kind of the large muscle groups. I'm going through a little phase of enjoying my Olympic lift variations at the moment. The multi-joint, the hand clean, push presses, for your hip and knee, flexion and extensions. In terms of tests, it's that time of year, isn't it? All the football clubs are doing their pre-season. So, and I always have a discussion when we come to team sports, and we talk about agility, but is it really agility? Is it just change of direction? The kind of little subtle difference between those two. Yeah, I like the Yoyo Test. That's got quite a lot of merit. I've used the arrowhead for change of direction quite a lot. So just little kind of 90-degree changes, 45-degree changes. I think looking at a lot of football clubs, even at the semi-professional level, have got away from the just running around the pitch as many times as you can before you're sick kind of approach. So I think if you want to get faster, sprint. I don't think a lot of clubs do enough sprint work. I think that's something that people could make use of, whether that be assisted or resisted sprinting. Just find out what you want to improve on, and then but I think definitely a good foundation would be kind of your compound lifts or your kind of Olympic lifting variants. If the athlete's a little bit more advanced trained, perhaps maybe not your complete view to the conditioning world, but if they've got a little bit of a background, I think they're definitely useful.
Thanks for those insights, Gary. That's really useful. I do like asking people that question because everyone's got a different answer.
Yeah.
But as you said, and to quote Martin Boucher, context is king. And it's it's not a very straightforward question to answer generically. Cause you could go on you could do a whole podcast about this. But with regards to the Yoyo Test specifically, I have something that I use a lot because it's very simple to carry out. You can do lots of athletes at the same time. You can quite easily then program maximal aerobic speed training or quite accurate anaerobic training based on their results, depending on what kind of format you want to do it in. I work with multiple sports teams at the moment, particularly with rugby and football, cricket. Just being able to then transfer those yo-yo scores, those distances, into meters a second units, and then using those specific scores to target distances for them to run in their training. Really, really useful. We're currently using a 10-second on, 10-second off protocol at the moment, which is
Okay.
based over a 50 metre, or it's been between 50 and 55 metre linear distance, or a 25 to 27 turning distance, and that's quite a good variable to probably get them working between 100 and 110% of their maximum aerobic speed, which definitely keeps them honest, but doesn't completely kill them. But the good thing about that protocol is, doing 10 to 12 reps is going to take 3 to 4 minutes, giving them 3 to 5 minutes rest between sets and doing 2 or 3 sets, you can get a pretty good quality session done in 20-25 minutes. So it's very efficient, and it's usually quite accurate, and it's very easy to progress. So I am a big fan of using that protocol myself, but the boys are not necessarily a big fan of doing it as regularly as we do it. But they have started to see benefit and starting to buy into it a bit more. And the other thing which is very useful is you can make it quite easily competitive. So if someone, if you move the cone up an extra half a metre for someone each session, the others start to try and keep up with them. So yeah, it's really good. That's specifically a very good test. So just kind of coming towards the last few questions that I wanted to ask you, what would you say your top pieces of advice in life, exercise and or sport would be that you would promote to either the younger you or possibly to graduates just coming out of university or aspiring S&C coaches, aspiring sports scientists?
I think going back to the 3 valuable things that we spoke about, I think if I'd have known those 20 years ago, I think I might have not better, but I think I think my learning process would have been a little bit more smoother. And I think one that we kind of often forget, be kind to each other. I think that's a great overriding rule. Be kind.
Yeah.
Say hello to people, a little smile. Little acknowledgement can go a long way. So, and if you're working with a group of people, I was sort of taught by Roger Anoka. Obviously, he's one of the All Black kind of support staff, isn't he? And it actually made reference in a book that I really enjoyed last year called Legacy. I can't remember the author, but it talks about All Black kind of philosophies. And I'm a big fan of the no dickhead rule. And they describe the dickhead as people who put themselves ahead of the team, people who think they're better than they are, that don't necessarily operate within the rules of the squad, think they've got a sense of entitlement. So I'm a big fan of that as well. In the classroom, you can almost get the students or the athletes to police that themselves. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the no dickhead rule, definitely.
Love it. There's definitely, I'm not mentioning any names, there's definitely a few people I'd like to pop that rule in front of. Yeah, I can think of quite a few actually, but I think it's honest mistakes, and a lot of it's to do with immaturity and just learning, really growing up. But I probably could have done with reading that rule myself, to be honest. When I was younger, I think one of my most valuable experiences, transitioning as I suppose a teenage athlete to like a senior athlete, was humility and just respecting your elders. But also just respecting people around you as well, whether they are your teammates, your coaches, your teachers, your parents. Everyone cares for you and wants you to succeed, and I think you just need to show that you appreciate that.
Do you know what, a memory from being 12 years old at the start of secondary school has come to my head. we had a fantastic PE teacher called Mr. Johnson, was called, and he ran the school football teams, and he kind of tried to install us right from the very start that, you know, no matter the result, whether you've won 10-0 or lost 10-0, shake your opponent by the hand, congratulate them. You know, inside you might be thinking, do you know what, I'm going to do you next time, you were lucky. You know, you might be crying inside, but show that, put that face on, sense of humility, shake the hand, look them in the eye and say, well done, well played. And that, yeah, that's just come to mind again, so that shows what a simple message, how effective sort of a little message like that can be. So I'm thinking about 30 years ago now, and that memory still kind of is still installed, and I have to install it into my 8-year-olds, my 8-year-old football team. And they make it. They make a point of shaking hands with their opponents after the match, whether they've won or lost. And I think that shows a lot, really.
I think that's brilliant, and I can completely relate to that. We've all been on the winning and the losing side of sports teams, haven't we? And two very different sets of emotions, but it is important, I think, to learn those life lessons early. And then if you see people kind of forgetting those, just subtly remind them that it's not necessarily about winning or losing. There's a lot more to it than that. But it's easy to forget, isn't it? It's easy to forget, but it's important.
Yeah, definitely is. The book I made reference to, Ryan, I've just kind of got my iPad in front of me. It's a book called Legacy by James Kerr.
Okay, great. I'll stick that in the show notes. Definitely that is on my reading list. Is that the one that, forgive my ignorance here, is that the one that they talk about sweeping the sheds, or is that a different book?
I think it is, yeah. He just talks about the online principles.
Yeah.
So there's kind of the idea of sweeping the sheds, and talks about leaving the jersey in a better place where you've left it. So yeah, it's a really good book.
Awesome. I'll definitely put that in the show notes. Thank you for the reference. So we are coming towards July 2019. What have you got coming up in your schedule, Gary, for the rest of this year? Any exciting projects or any trips anywhere?
Well, I've got, I made reference earlier to being a tutor and assessor for a fitness training provider, so I've got a few weekend courses between London and Cardiff over the summer. Definitely a bit of family time is important, so we've got a week in Cornwall lined up at the start of August, so definitely a bit of downtime. No device rule for a couple of days, just enjoy a bit of time off, really.
Sure.
Bit of preparation time. It seems ages away, but when we get to like the third week of August, we'll be kind of getting the new students enrolled and showing them the ropes around the campus, and so bit of prep time, bit of downtime, bit of family time. So that'll be my summer, and it'll be gone before I know it, really. I
know it does fly by, doesn't it? I'm also looking forward to a little bit of a break. It's been quite a busy term for me, this one as well. Mainly with cricket teams, athletics teams, tennis teams, and track and field teams. And rowing teams. So
you've had a few trips away as well.
Yeah, it's been quite good. I'm quite lucky. I get to go away to most pre-season tours with. I'm just trying to do it seasonally. So with rugby, we went to Japan last year. We'll be going to Italy this year. With football, we went to Barcelona last year, which was a brilliant experience, going to their training ground and meeting some of the players. And then we're off to IMG Academy in Florida next year. Nice. And then, what was the other one? Athletics. We usually go to Browns in Portugal. A couple of, I think there's a talk about possibly going to Club La Santa this year, but I'm not sure if that's still going to happen. But when we went to Browns last year, the Army were there, the Army rugby team were there preparing for the Army-Navy game. So that's pretty cool to see them train. Some big lumps in that squad. But no, it's a great facility. But yeah, it's nice to always go away and get involved and be a part of that pre-season prep. But it's pretty full on. But it's good. So yeah, looking forward to rugby season starting again, which will be exciting next term. So, Gary, just before I let you go, if people wanted to kind of get in touch with you, just to kind of network or ask any follow-up questions, what would be the best way of doing that?
I'm on Twitter. If people want to say hello that way, do you want me to give you the Twitter handle, or would you just put that on the notes?
I will. I've got it, so I can. I'll add it. I'll add it onto the show notes at the end.
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Or if people just want to drop me an email, you've got my email address as well, right? I think.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So just any of those mediums, just say hello, be kind, and I'd be happy to reach out. If that's the American phrase.
Yeah. Awesome.
Make contact with people. Yeah. So yeah.
Bro. Well, please stay on the line until we cut the recording, but I just wanted to say thank you very much. It's been great chatting to you, and appreciate your time. Best of luck with your projects coming up, and yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Good to catch up.
Thanks for listening to the 18th episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave us a rating and/or review on whichever platform you're listening on. Please check out our website, www.extremesportsperformance.com. On our media page, we have weekly blogs that include Thought of the Week, Exercise of the Week, Recipe of the Week, and Training Song of the Week. Each month's collection gets compiled into our monthly newsletter along with company service and store updates. You can sign up for free to receive this via our subscribe page. Our online store consists of training programs, online and in-person coaching, nutrition plans, toolbox, and interactive training systems. Please follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Links to these can be found at the bottom of every page on our website or via any search engine. That's all for now. Until next time, take care.